Hello, guys. Welcome to another episode of Real Estate Conversations with Harsh, a podcast for investors by investors. And today we have Danielle Chiasson. She is a serial entrepreneur known for her work in the field of real estate investing, especially in residential redevelopment and rental housing. She is focused in Ontario, and her projects range from light cleanups to full renovations, conversion of legal duplex, triplex, and multi-unit, and flips for multi-units. That's an interesting one. She just launched her strategic success consulting in 2023, and we're going to discuss about that too. So welcome, Danielle.
Thanks for having me on the show, Harsh.
So happy to have you on the show. Thank you.
On the show, for sure. It's a lot of work.
Thank you so much. Yes. Yes, it is. So, Danielle, we'd like to know your story, what it is, how you got into real estate, what were you doing before, and where you're now heading towards with the strategic success consulting. And that's a nice board that I see behind you. That's awesome. Like the color scheme is really good.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, the black and gold is our corporate colors for strategic success. And so we kind of incorporate that into everything. But yeah, actually, side note, when I spoke at the multifamily conference, I don't know if you remember, but I had
Yes, I do. And that's where we met.
Yes, that is where we met. When I was on stage, I wore a black and gold dress, and I 100% did not plan that, but I guess that's how much I like the black on the gold on black color scheme. Yeah, my dress was black and gold, and my business partner and the team, they're like, "You planned that?" And I'm like, "No, I didn't. I swear to God, I didn't." They go, "That looks so great on stage." Anyway, yeah. So the black and gold, that's just my banner in the back. But yeah, so my story, to answer your question about my story, really, it's not a sexy story. It's just the typical story like everybody else. So I'm an East Coast girl. I grew up in Eastern Canada in the Maritimes. I was a bit of a tomboy growing up, had really humble beginnings. So my playground was outside, just everywhere and anywhere, on my bike, in a tree, and went through school there. And then when I graduated, I had some family in Calgary. It's a big city. So I hopped over the country, went to Calgary, had culture shock. It's not that big of a city, but when you come from a place that has 7,000 people, and that's in the greater geography of that, the town itself was only 2,500, or it's not even a town, it's a hamlet. And then, 7,000 people in the whole area, and no diversification, by the way. So then going to Calgary, that was a bit of a culture shock. So I lived out there for 10 years, and then I ended up settling here in Ontario when I met the father of my children. We started building a family in my 30s. So in my 20s in Calgary, I was in the service industry, spent a lot of time partying and learning life. And that was like my life lessons, my hard knock lessons. And then, started building a family with my former life partner. Now, he was a contractor, and he had a very successful business in contracting. And I learned a lot about contracting, and always had an attraction. And many people that are listening to this audience, I am certain, are just attracted to real estate. There is something about real estate that everybody wants to find out about. And so I always had that. And so when the kids got a little bit older and I wanted to branch off and do my own thing, I decided, like, with having the support of him being a contractor and then getting into real estate, doing flipping, that just made a whole lot of sense for me. So I actually started in real estate as a landlord, bought my first rental property in 2003, 20 years. Yeah. Wow. But the first 10 years were really lost years because I was just a landlord. At that point, I was just investing, buying real estate properties, buy and holds only, single family. And I was just buying, a few here and there, and then thought I knew everything as a landlord. And then in 2013, when I decided to start flipping and actually do this as a career, I started learning. So I went down in the States. There was nothing up here at the time other than maybe real estate agents and their brokerage would have little meetups, or mortgage brokers. There really wasn't much outside of that. And then I went down to the States with a group down there, and I just 2.5 years of my life was dedicated to learning, and I learned a lot. And that's when I went from being amateur real estate investor into a sophisticated real estate investor. It's when I flipped the switch. That education really was a game changer. And so 2015, I bought my first flip and I went running from there. So I started flipping houses, did that for 5 years. COVID happened, decided to pivot. I wanted to do buy and hold or go more into acquisition mode, because as you're not building your portfolio, you're just buying and selling and buying and selling. And everybody around me was building their portfolios. And I'm like, well, I want to do some of that. So then I started building my portfolio in 2020, ended up buying things that I knew. So what I knew up until now was buying distressed properties to do an uplift. And then 2020, 2021 went into buy mode. Then in 2022, the interest rate started increasing. So my partners and I started looking at the portfolio, because my concern was I wanted to make sure we strengthen the portfolio to weather the storm. And as we were analyzing, we just kept coming back to these properties that we actually didn't want, because when we envisioned going into acquisitions for multifamilies, we really wanted purpose-built multifamilies. And what we ended up buying was smaller multis that were distressed, that needed a lot of work. And so we actually made the decision to offload everything, which in turn, during that transition gives me my time back so that I could relaunch Strategic Success, which we've been talking about for the last 2 years. So now I'm able to transfer and convert everything online in Strategic Success and offer an educational platform for entrepreneurs out there, not just in real estate, but in business as well. So it's an entrepreneurial educational platform online for and I niche in real estate because that's what I know really well. But building these businesses with my partners and running them and running teams and whatnot, I just want to share everything that I know to help other people on their journey. So that's kind of in a nutshell, I guess, the history of how I got into real estate and evolved from there.
And it is very, very, very exciting. Really exciting story. Really exciting. Because normally I have seen, especially, and not being a racist or like a male here, but normally I have not seen many girls go from what you have been through for a long time. I know another person who does very, very well and who started, but she works out of the Bay Area. And you might know Mandy. Yeah. Honestly, I just know two of you and maybe a couple of more, but they are not significant. But significantly, like it's you and Mandy.
There's a few more out there, Harsh. Honestly, like I think there's maybe we just get lost in the sea of men because we really are women in a male-dominated industry, and you just got to call a spade a spade. That's how it is. I think women traditionally have been very timid about taking an aggressive front role when it comes to real estate investing, and they allow their partners, or they'll find a male partner to kind of lead the way. And I think now what we're doing, like Mandy Branham is a really good friend of mine, Sarah Etter's another one. There's a whole bunch of us out there that are doing, Susan White Livermore. I mean, I could name you a whole bunch.
Sarah Larby.
Yeah, Sarah Larby is another one, so I can name you a whole bunch of women and they're all my friends, by the way. Like we're just, I guess because you're right. There's more men than women in this industry. So we have kind of banded together, but yeah, it is an up and coming thing. And there's a lot more women now. Like even when I go to real estate events, there's a lot more stage now too, which I'm loving. Yeah. Yes,
absolutely. And you're absolutely bang on right. Okay. So coming to the Strategic Success, what is it now? It's for entrepreneurs. Like, can you give us a little bit deep insight into what it is? Like, what do you teach in here from an entrepreneurial perspective? Like, do you give business knowledge? Do you give them the tools or something to do it, or it's something else?
Yeah. So here's the thing. There's a lot of information online about what to do, and you can buy courses on multifamily investing. I have one myself even, and you can buy the course, and the course gives you the outline and the structure of what to do, but it doesn't give you how. And I think that's what people are missing. So what's happening is this. People go out, they get a course, or they just like consume a lot of information online through YouTube and other sources, and even going into in-person events, which is what I did. I mean, I went into in-person events to be taught, and or they read books. And so you consume all this education, but it's all telling you what to do. Like this is the process, but it doesn't tell you how, when you're getting into the weeds, you're actually doing it. So for example, it'll say, okay, walk through properties and take inventory of the condition of the property. Well, what do you look at? What do you need to analyze? How do you do that? What team members should you have that you lean into in order to get the information that you're looking for, right? And then it's like, okay, great. Now, if it passes that sniff test, well, then put the property under contract, lock it up. Okay, great. But I don't know anything about an APS, or I've never, what's a Schedule A and what clauses do I need to put in and what do they even mean? How do they protect me? And oh, wait a minute, multifamily, there's different clauses for multifamily investments that I should be putting in as standard agreement. Yeah, there's like probably a dozen off the top of my head that I can tell you that you should be putting in there as a standard clause, never mind anything specific to that property. So what I'm doing is I'm kind of filling in the missing middle, the gap, because people are going to, okay, I know what to do, but now I'm trying to do it and it's really hard and I don't really know how. So now I'm going to hire a coach. What I want to do is I want to give you the information that you need in that missing middle, instead of going from having high level knowledge and understanding to having a coach to tell you what to do. There's a missing piece there. There's a gap, and that's what we're filling.
That'll be really helpful for upcoming and new and possibly experienced investors too, because sometimes I've seen that experienced investors, they do have the know-hows, but they are missing some small key points which can really upgrade their sophistication in investing.
Well, this is what happens if you don't get coaching and you get the high level understanding and education, and there's no coaching, somebody with experience who can tell you and guide you along the way. And then you get that high level information and then you start implementing, you just start plowing through. You're not going to do it right because you don't have the knowledge to do it right. So you're like, you're just kind of scrambling, you're treading water and you're just hoping that you can stay afloat, right? And then make it through to the other side of the lake. So like you're swimming and you're like, okay, I don't really know how to swim here, but I'm just going to keep doing this because I was told to flap my arms in the water and hope that I can stay afloat and then get to the other side. But you're not doing it efficiently and effectively, and you might make a mistake along the way, right? And so you want to make sure that you have all of the devil's in the details, Harsh. So you want to make sure that you understand. The other thing is too, giving people the what. This is the process. This is what needs to get done without the how. Why is also not explained. And it's really important. And for you to understand, you can go through something and follow a step-by-step checklist and get it all done, but you're not going to get it done very well or at a high level if you don't understand why it is you're doing what you're doing. Like why, go back to the Schedule A. Like, why am I putting these clauses in here? Oh, okay, it's to protect me. But if you don't understand the clause itself or why you need that clause in there, then it's really hard to put it in there in an effective way that's going to protect you. And you're not going to remember maybe to do it next time. So maybe you have a realtor tell you the first time and you're like, oh, okay, sure, I'll put it in. But it doesn't stick. It doesn't stick because you don't understand why. Right?
Yes.
And so next time you do it, you think you're doing it right, but you forget that clause and that could cost you thousands of dollars.
Yes, absolutely. A small mistake in real estate does not cost you like $5-10. It costs you like 5-10,000, right? It's always in thousands. And especially if you're focused in Ontario and in major cities, which we are going to next, it is going to cost you more. Like small mistakes cost more.
100%.
So coming into Ontario, and I see that you're focused in Ontario markets, right? So what markets do you focus on now? And where do you see those markets heading in the future, like in the coming next 3 to 5 years, or any opinion or any thoughts on them?
Well, listen, my opinion with Ontario is it's a solid market, period.
Yes.
And I mean, if we take, cut the province in half and you're looking at southern from east to west Ontario along the 401 corridor, I mean, it is solid. It's a solid just area geographically to be investing. And what's driving that is the population growth due to immigration. And so I firm strong in that, even with the interest rates going up and maybe teetering on a recession and all of that. I just feel because of the demand on the housing with the housing shortage we have, and that's just the pressure is continuing to mount. It's just not getting any relief at all because we just continue to have more and more people coming into this area right across the board. And I say that it's not just most immigrants are coming into the GTA area, into the larger urban areas, but what's happening though, the smaller areas are getting fed because people are saying, you know what, especially now with COVID, because now businesses have adapted to working remotely and having virtual employees. And so now working remotely has been something that is offered and available to people that maybe didn't have it before. So they have the option to move to sub-markets or smaller markets that are more affordable to them. So even though a lot of people are still coming into the GTA in the Greater Toronto area, there's a lot of people that are migrating out to the smaller areas. So that keeps the population growing in those smaller areas. And as a real estate investor, you want to look for some growth. You want to look at the municipality itself, that it's open to that growth, and that there's some mandates and some policies in place to, have some incentives for investors to be going into those markets to allow for that growth as well. And that's all happening here in this area. So all of that, like, I understand there's a lot of uncertainty right now in the economy, but I still think this area is great to invest in real estate. What I will say that I don't like about this area is the landlord and tenant laws seem to be a little bit off balance, a little bit. Yeah, so that's the only thing. But I am offloading my portfolio, and where I'm going to reinvest, Harsh, I'm keeping that open, to be honest.
Okay. And I completely agree about your point about the immigration, right? I was reading it somewhere that there was a research conducted, and whenever somebody is new to the country and when they land to an airport, they tend to stay, like most of them tend to stay within the 25 kilometers off that airport, which is the GTA market, right? And nowadays, because there's a sprawl that's happening to different cities outside of GTA. So now they're moving towards Hamilton, towards Niagara, and even towards, I've seen people move to like London, right? Which is like literally far from the GTA. But now there are opportunities in these markets as well where people are moving. But that being said, immigration is the main reason where I don't think the housing shortage will ever come to life. Like we will never have a supply which is more than the demand. And you're right. Any city in Ontario is absolutely, it's going to explode.
Yeah, and again, it's growing because you have immigration in the urban area and then migration to the smaller areas, right?
Absolutely, absolutely.
As far as the shortages, like you're saying, if they continue the mandates that they've had and the policies, the immigration policies that they have, and they keep honoring that, it's not going to change because we are unable to build as quick. Like every year when you have, let's say, 200,000 immigrants coming into an area, it is nearly physically impossible to build the amount of housing units necessary to offset that in one calendar year. And so because of that, it's why the pressure on the housing shortage is just not letting go. We're just not able to get ahead of it. And right now, we're not just behind it. We're like 3 laps behind it. Like,
we are very behind.
Yeah.
Okay, that is so wonderful to know. It just amazes me. Like when I started the podcast, I tend to learn a lot through this, right? Sometimes you're really not aware of what people are doing because when we meet, we're able to talk for 5, 10, 15 minutes, right? But the talks are really not focused on real estate, right? It's more focused on socialization. But when I'm doing this podcast now, I also get to learn a lot from different investors that what they are trying to do and where they are focused on. And I guess this also helps everyone who's listening and viewing the podcast, right? It's really great. I believe we're doing a good thing with this podcast, and especially people like you and Seth and everyone who's supporting this podcast. I really appreciate your time. But now coming to the next question, I know you said you're keeping your options open, but in terms of real estate investing, would you be going for bigger multifamilies? Would you be going for land development? Would you be going for houses, like doing the flip part again or burying them? Or that option is also open.
Yeah. So I believe in diversification,
Yes.
right? Now, when I started flipping in 2015, I was going through implementing what I learned. By the way, for anybody who's listening to the podcast, you're never going to get ahead if you're not implementing. And that's where a lot of students that I talk to, a lot of people that I talk to is like, hey, I know to do this and I know to do that. Okay, but now go and do it. You need to get confidence to go and do it. And if you don't have the confidence to go and do it, is because you haven't learned enough, or you haven't surrounded yourself enough with a strong enough network to support you while you're implementing. But the key is you need to implement. So go out there, find a way to start implementing and take that risk. Go out there and do it. So coming back to your question, I believe in diversification. When you first start out and you're learning, you have to do one thing and practice that and do it well. So I went out there, I started flipping. I wanted to flip entry-level homes, single family, and I knew that's not where I was going to stay when I started, but that was going to be my launching pad. And I stayed in that space for 5 years, admittedly too long. I could have gotten out sooner to kind of start growing on my journey. But then I just got really busy in it. And then it was really hard to like step away from it. Then how do you break away from that? Because you become so entrenched in it. So that's what happened to me. And that's why with COVID, when COVID happened, we had a 7-week construction shutdown, and that gave me time to really reflect and revisit what I was doing and what direction I was going in. So, but you need to start in something. You can't do everything. I do believe in diversity in order to balance out your risk a little bit and mitigate some risk. But in the beginning, when you're just starting, you're going to do one strategy. So pick that strategy and go and do it. So what I'm about to say is not for new investors out there to be doing. Okay. And the reason why I'm bringing this up is just so that you don't get confused. If you're new, learn one strategy, get really good at it, get immersed in real estate, continue your education. When you're more experienced, like I am, I will, when I come back into the real estate game full on, because right now I'm full on in building this platform, which is a monster. I can't do both at the same time. So right now I'm hitting the pause button on real estate and acquisitions. But when I come back in, what I want to do is new builds, purpose-built multifamily and or self-storage. And when I do that, when I come back in, then I'll be analyzing markets. I'll be looking at the numbers. I'll be crunching things. I'll be looking to see what area makes sense. And I'm open to across Canada and down in the States, because I have the experience that I gained when I was doing the flips. I was doing them locally. Then I expanded out and I started doing things virtually. I expanded. Oh, by the way, you did ask me what markets that I invested in that I know and stuff in Ontario. Yes. So I was in Cornwall, Sudbury, North Bay, Timmins, Hamilton, Welland, Niagara on the Lake. So I was all over. So I have the experience and the capability and the team now to be able to handle that virtually. And I've made mistakes along the way. So I know I've implemented systems in order to avoid those mistakes doing it again, right? Yes. So I'm keeping it open. I'm going to be following the numbers. I'm a real estate investor. It's all about the numbers for me. So I'll be looking at different markets based on markets that are having a swing up. And I'll be looking at new build, purpose built. And especially here in Ontario, I am open to doing purpose-built multi-residential in Ontario if the numbers make sense, but I will not buy existing. It'll only be purpose-built multis, new built. And the reason why is a couple of reasons, because one, if I want to offload the property in 10 or 15 years, it's still a marketable property and it's still very attractive. Number two, the new units will not be under rent controls, so I can protect the value of my property by raising the rate, the rental rates with the market, not with the mandated rent controls that we have imposed by the Residential Tenancies Act. And so those are big reasons for me. But I am open to going anywhere where it makes sense. And so for me, when I look at markets to invest in, everybody talks about an appreciating market or cash flow market. For me, I put the two together and I like to focus on hybrid markets. So
which is a great thing to do.
Yeah. So I want a little bit of appreciation, a little bit of cash flow. That way, if the market swings, the economy swings this way or that, I have a buffer on either end.
Very good advice. And coming back to the advice part where you suggested too many good things for the people who are just starting up, right? One thing I have noticed is when people are starting up, the first fear or what they're afraid of is capital, right? Either they don't have capital or they think they cannot arrange capital. Now, I believe that capital will follow the deal, but sometimes people are afraid or they have a fear of capital. What's your advice to new investors, like brand new, who think that they'll need to raise capital, about capital for investing?
Okay, so I just want to comment on what you said about how the capital will follow the deal. That's true 9 times out of 10. But the one factor that could be where capital doesn't follow a great deal or a good deal is when the working partner that's raising the capital doesn't have the confidence when they're talking to the capital partner. Because if you come to the capital partner and the numbers all look good, but you're very uncertain about yourself or timid, then it makes me question if you really know these numbers, if these are actually the numbers. You know, like it's going to make me feel uncomfortable and uncertain because you're uncertain.
Yes.
So it's really important that you get comfortable with the deal.
Yes.
And when you're pitching it, here's how you get over that timidness or that intimidation of talking to capital partners, because people, that's the thing, they go into the deal and they're like, what if they say no? And so it makes there's a lot of self-doubt, there's a lot of lack of confidence, and all of that will kill the deal for you if you don't present well. But here's how you get over it. Listen up. I'm going to give it to you right now. What most people don't understand is that the capital partner needs you as much as you need them.
Absolutely. So their audience, like everyone who just heard it, this is the exact piece where you need to get in your mind. You'll do good.
Yeah. So you have to understand that the capital and the deal, the project needs each other in order for it to work.
Yes.
And it's a symbiotic relationship. So the working partner needs the money as much as the money needs the working partner. So when you go into a deal, you're going to go in and don't be afraid of a no, because a no is a blessing. I'm going to tell you why in a minute. So just hang tight. If they want to tell you no, it's no problem because there's more money out there. Right?
Yes.
It's not going to be a win-win for everyone, but you're going in with the mindset that you're presenting an opportunity, and that's it. If you go in chasing for a yes, you're going to be looking desperate. You might have that nervousness set in because you're like, oh, I need them to say yes. I need them to say. You don't need them because you can find more money. Trust me, there is a lot out there. And you just need to put it out to the world and to the universe that you're raising money and money will find you. So you need to make sure that you go in, take the position that you are presenting an opportunity to somebody, and know that if it's a good deal, they'll say yes. What happens is this: if you get told no, don't walk away. If you get told no, ask them why not. When you get told no, it is a blessing 9 times out of 10, especially if you are new. If they're telling you no, it's because they don't think it's a good deal and you want to find out why, because that's where you're going to learn. That's when you're going to grow. That's how you're going to refine your underwriting process and hammering out the numbers. Now, understand that the two people in the room may have different risk tolerances, and how you write it is fine for you, but it's not fine for them. And it may still be a good deal. However, if you're new and a potential lender says no, it actually might not be a good deal. And you want to ask them why they said no, so you can determine if you missed something or if it's just because you have a different risk tolerance than they do. So maybe the margins are too thin for them, but you're comfortable with them. So that's okay. It's still a good deal because you're making that decision to go in with a little bit less margin. Maybe somebody else wants better margin. That means they're less riskier than you are. And that's okay. But maybe you missed something and that's why they said no.
That was powerful. That was really powerful. Because I haven't thought of rebuttaling if somebody's saying no and just straight away coming, oh, why? Can you tell me why not?
Yeah, I just want to say it's not a rebuttal. It's just a conversation. Say, hey, man, you know what? I respect that. But I want to ask you something. Did I miss something? Why is this not a good, I just want to understand. And then you can position it and say, I want to understand what criteria that you look for so that I can not waste your time with deals that don't work for you. Help me understand what you're looking for. But that is your on-the-job training, guys. So when you say, help me understand what you're looking for, what is a good deal to you? And then you're going to end up refining how you look at deals as well. And then you'll be able to craft them and structure them in a way that's way more attractive to capital partners. So in the beginning, you're going to get a lot of no's. Use that and leverage that to help you become stronger at it, and expect those no's, because you're training right now. You're educating yourself right now. So it's not going to be a ballpark it's not going. You're not going to hit the first one, the second one, the third one out of the ballpark. You're not. But you're going to use the time that you've invested into that deal and structuring that deal to learn how to do it better. You should always, always, always be striving to be better. Be better, man. Be better.
Yes. Wow. That was such a great advice. I'm glad I asked you that. I do invest, but that is something that I have never practiced as well. Like I have asked for feedback, but that was not something that I just did. Like as soon as they said no, and just went after it. Like, can you tell me why not? Like, what's it in it that you don't like?
And if you want to really be effective with that, let me step it up a little bit for you. Before you ask them why, say, you know what? That's awesome. I respect that. Can I have 2 more minutes of your time? And that, because as soon as you ask, if you go, really? No? How come? Well, they're like, you know what? I already said no. I'm done with this conversation. Like, I got shit to do, right? So if you say, oh, that's awesome. I thank you for considering and taking the time to listen. Would it be okay if I just use up another 3-4 minutes of your time? I got one more question.
Yes.
And then they go, yeah, sure. So as soon as they say yes, now they're committing to spending that time with you. And you're going to get a longer answer as opposed to just getting, yeah, you know what? It just doesn't fit our criteria, because they're trying to get out of this meeting because they got stuff to do. So if you ask them, is it okay if I have 3 or 4 minutes of your time just because I got one more question? And I really appreciate some feedback. So and yes, they'll give you the long answer that you're looking for.
Absolutely. And I think adding this sentence before will warm them up a little, right? Even if they're not happy with the deal, maybe it's not their kind, or as you said, not the risk tolerance, right? But if you ask for permission, it'll warm them up a little and they'll open up a little more, right? Yeah. So it gives us a second chance to try and convert them again.
And listen, there's 1,000 ways of why they might not take the deal. Maybe they don't have the cash right now. Maybe it's a strategy that they don't invest in, right? Maybe it's in an area and a location that they don't like. Maybe it's a type of property that they don't like. So what happens when new investors get told no, and even experienced ones, right? They get told no, they go, oh my God, they didn't like me. It's how I presented. They didn't like. So when you ask why, you're really going to be able to define whether or not it has anything to do with you, the deal, or just overall, it doesn't meet their criteria.
Yeah. So it has to be either of these 3 things, right? It cannot be a 4th one. So either it's they don't like it, either they don't like us, or they don't like the deal, or it's the risk tolerance, right? Or they don't have the capital. So so these are the only 4 things, right? But if they don't have the capital now, maybe they have it after 3 months and they are ready for the next one.
Well, now by asking why, and if they came back to me and said, oh, you know what? All our funds are unavailable right now, then it opens up the door to have that conversation again, to ask for permission to say, oh, okay, well, let me ask you this. Is this the type of deal that you would invest in if you had capital? And if they say yes, you go, great. Would you mind if I get another deal like this if I call you up? They say yes. Again, they open up that door. So now when you call, they won't be slamming the door in your face because they've actually opened up. So it's a psychological trick in order to use to keep that line open, so that you can continue the conversation and maybe go back and at some point, and by the way, that's the other thing. A lot of times investors get told no from a capital lender once or capital partner once, and then they never go back. I don't know why you're doing that. I'm telling you, because a lot of times they might have not had the money. Maybe they just left it out last week and now they're tapped out. Maybe you need 200,000. They only got 75 available. So they just said no and maybe they said no because they didn't think you would take 75. But by asking why, and they say, yeah, I only got 75 right now. Well, oh, you know what? Well, maybe we can structure it. I'll find another partner to do the 125. Would you be open to that?
Yes. No, that is such a great advice.
Like people curl into a ball and go crying. Don't do that. Don't.
Yeah, no, that's such a great advice. Like that was really powerful. The why part was really, really, really great. And thank you for that. See, people, that's what experience does to you, right? It's not really about the knowledge. Knowledge anyone can grasp within 6 months to a year, right? But it's the actual implementation and the experience that follows that makes you wiser and greater in life than just by having the knowledge, right? Because you go to a college, you get the knowledge, or you hire a coach, you do get the knowledge, or you study books. Everything, you can get the knowledge, but you really can't gain the experience until you really do it.
When you do it, it reinforces that knowledge in a much deeper level. And
Yes.
so it just brings, when you can put knowledge and experience together, then that will equate to wisdom.
Wow. Such a wise thought. See, well, that is, I'm so glad to have you on the show. Thank you very much. Okay, now I wanted to ask about the strategic success. So if somebody wants to sign up for the program, how do they reach out to you? Do they just go to the website and sign up there? Or is there a link to schedule a call with your team and they'll see if it's the right fit? And how the process?
So that's a great question. You can go to strategicsuccessconsulting.com. And that takes you to my website. I've got some free content on there. I've got a tab there for content. If you want to just like dive into content, you can buy some of the content. Some of it is free. I also have a couple of different coaching options on there as well. You can book a call with me. I'm going to be honest with you, Harsh. I don't even know if the link is in the website, but you can always connect with me on social media and say, hey, I'd love to book a call and find out more. So DM me on Instagram or Facebook. I'm happy to send you my Calendly link. And after we're done this podcast, I think I'm going to have to go talk to my IT team and get them to put the Calendly link on the website too. I don't think I do. So I think I should have that on there. But yeah, you can just reach out to me direct through my DMs. I do manage my own DMs. So just go to my socials and say, hey, I heard you on Harsh podcast. Would love to connect with you. Here's the thing about the calls. I don't bite. People get intimidated. What I do, I love serving people. So what I do on the calls is I just want to find out if we can help each other. Like at the end of the day, it's got to be a win-win. If I can't help you, I will tell you I can't help you. And if I know somebody who can do better and help you, I will refer you to that person. That's just because I'm not going to put myself in a position where I'm going to take on somebody and I can't help them. And then it's just frustrating for me and frustrating for them. So
absolutely,
I want to make sure that everybody is successful in what they do. And in order to ensure that success, I might not be the right fit. And that's just the reality of it. And I don't have ego when it comes to that sort of thing. I just put my clients first. So whatever is best for you. And sometimes it's just like, go learn some more here, learn this, do this course and do that course, and then come back. And then we can actually make the coaching worth your time instead of me teaching you something that you can teach yourself for a fraction of the cost. Right. So anyway, so it's just a conversation. I always make sure that I give some great feedback. So, it's just an intro call to find out, it's a discovery call to find out whether or not it would be a good fit and whether or not there's a way I can help you. And I always just deliver some good tidbits regardless to make it worth your while. So if you want to connect with me and have a quick conversation, feel free to DM me or go to my website, creep me on my website. You can also creep me through my social media. I always encourage to hit like or follow on social media as well, because I keep posting great content for free on social media. And I also, in the stories, they disappear. So you have to be following me in order to see those stories. So I always tell people, follow. And
we'll be posting all the social handles for you when we release the podcast. So everything, and if you want, you can send me the Calendly link as well. I'll include that in the post also. We will definitely be posting everything in there. I'm out of questions, and I'm beyond glad that we discussed so much, and the why was really great. It changed a lot for me. So I'll be now using that in my future conversations for sure. And I'm pretty sure it'll change a lot of things.
That's awesome.
Yes.
I'm glad I can help.
Yeah, thank you so much. And we'd like to really thank you from the bottom of my heart. You made it on the show, and thank you for being here.
It was my pleasure, Harsh. Thank you for the opportunity.
Thank you so much.